So, my name's Lisa Brennan, and I am the early childhood teacher here at Spotted Frog Kindergarten on the New South Wales Central Coast, and I have been the ECT here for 30 years. Our project explored mathematics, specifically tally systems. The spark of the project really came from play. Children had a shop that they were playing in, and they were setting their shop up every day and playing in their store, and they were packing away, and they were finding that each day they would pack things away, and next day they would get things out, and that there was some things that were missing. So really the project was born out of a problem that needed to be solved. And we've got two rooms here, and our rainbow room is the room that participated in the project. They were mostly 4 and 5 year olds. 54 children were involved and 6 educators. We really realised as educators that we had the perfect opportunity to let the children really come up with the strategies to solve this problem for themselves rather than us giving them the answers. And it began fairly simplistic, like, oh, we'll just pick the food up when we drop it. So we had to just push them a little bit to think beyond those really basic ideas. And then they started to really think about, well, we need to count what we've got. We'll count the food. We need to get some plates and some bowls, and then we need to group the food. So they started to talk about, well, we can put the bananas in one bowl and we can put apples in another bowl. And then they started to talk about being able to draw the different items that they had. And one of the children said, well, we can draw them and then we can put some ticks. So that really led us to thinking about, well, okay, all of these ideas, collecting and classifying and sorting and counting, we were able to label it, and we were able to say, hey, like, you guys have come up with some really great ideas, and they're all mathematic ideas. The child that came up with the idea to draw the food and tick against it, we really were able to then say, hey, well, that's called a tally. And then we looked at how stores like supermarkets might keep track of their supplies. And we looked at that being a similar concept to tallying and using mathematics. And then we were able to talk about the actual process of doing a stock take. But it didn't take them very long to actually start designing their own. They were ruling them up with rulers, they were drawing their food, they were ticking. They were even to the point where they were then creating, at another table, they were creating money for people to use. So they actually started a bit of subtraction because they started to cross things off when people bought them. So it really started to get bigger and bigger. And the children then, once the shop ideas started to calm down a little bit, and they were ready to move on to something new, they were actually able to sit and reflect and realize that, well, their idea of the tally system and the sorting and classifying and counting, that actually was a really valuable solution. It solved our problem. So the children were still really intrigued by tallies. They didn't want to play in the shop anymore, but they wanted to take tallying beyond just that. They then invented their own game using the sensory poppets. So they started to set up some baskets and different things to throw the poppets into, and they draw up starting lines, and it became a bit of a competition. They'd have 3 or 4 of them, and they'd throw their poppets and see if they could get them into whatever receptacle they'd set up. And then there was scorekeeping as well. They actually then started to also incorporate literacy because they wanted to know how to write the names of their peers, because they needed to write the names down of the players in the game. And then they started to also realize that tallying could be used to survey people. So they started to do emotion surveys. So they would get the big whiteboard and they'd draw all their grid, they'd do all their little emoji faces, and then they would go around the center and they would tally people and survey educators and their friends, how are you feeling today? So then they were able to find out, well, what was the most popular feeling of the day. They actually started to survey the cars that went past the preschool, and they started to draw up their tally systems for that as well and record the different colours that came past. And then they were able to use that information as a way of working out what the most popular colour car that came past today was. They decided they wanted to create a snow cone store in the sandpit. And I was able to watch them. We were all able to watch them use the information and all of the things that they'd been learning from their first shop and all of the mathematical competence that they had. They were able to put that all into practice again to set up their new store. And they were able to make menus and flavors and sort things out. They had them into groups of flavors. They were able to do their stock takes and tallies and keep records. And so it was really, really amazing actually watching them plan this next shop based around all of the skills that they'd learned through solving that problem at the very beginning. We also had children playing some of these games and teaching their families at home. They came in with tallies, they'd drawn them up at home, all of their different toys in their room, how many bears, how many dolls, how many trucks, how many pillows on their bed. And then they wanted to get us involved as educators. So they set us tasks and involved us and gave us tasks like you need to go home and you need to do a stock take of your earrings. Our families were actually really blown away. I think at the end of the project, they were able to really feel proud, and they learned that they actually were very, very capable. And I think that they also learned that maths, it was actually something that they could use every day. And it wasn't just about numbers, it was about how you could use maths to come up with the answer to something and solve a problem. They were had a true belief in themselves that they were very capable mathematicians. We used the project in the STEM Awards, writing about this project again for the awards. We really got to look at it in the gender lens. And we were able to really celebrate the girls. We happened to have that year a very big, dominant group of girls. And they were the driving force of this maths project. And we were able to really celebrate the girls as leaders, STEM leaders, and that they were really, when we had our award ceremony, some of the girls had already gone off to school. So we invited them back and they were able to come and share in that award ceremony and be celebrated as our leaders. And it was great, really great to see the empowerment that it gave them.